Sam Dubé here on behalf of Agora Publishing and the Toronto Book Expo. So consider this our corporate email to you concerning the worldwide pandemic of COVID-19. We want to apologize because we had all of our authors lined up for in-person interviews. We were going to go to Toronto and conduct these interviews, and we were really looking forward to it. But given the worldwide situation with the virus, unfortunately, we've had to take some precautions. So we are now conducting the interviews by proxy on Skype. So we hope that you enjoy the interviews. And once again, we apologize sincerely. And I don't know about you, but I look forward to hearing what the authors have to say. So hopefully you'll enjoy them, and hopefully you'll understand our situation here. And please stay safe. On behalf of Agora and the Toronto Book Expo, I'm Sam Dubé. See you on Skype.
Jesse, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, Sam. My name is Desislava Simionova, and I was born in Bulgaria. I am a high school teacher. I'm a yoga instructor. I also practice and teach meditation. And a few years ago, I discovered that I have a talent of writing. So this is how my book came into creation.
Excellent.
And this is my first book, The Path, which is about my journey, about the way I look at the world and how through self-love and self-care, I was able to connect with something that is hidden deep inside each one of us. And this is what I also have been talking about in my book.
Wonderful. What makes your book on self-discovery unique among all the books out there?
In this book, I share my journey. So this is my experience, my unique experience. It is about how I discovered how important it is to listen to myself and really allow my true self to express. So it is my path, and I hope with this book to inspire others to discover their path and be their unique selves, and just to be mindful that deep inside each one of us, there is something very powerful that is waiting to awaken. And through self-care, we can actually get there and connect with the light within.
Wonderful. So just a few technical questions here. Supposing that a viewer wanted to obtain your book, what's the name of the publisher and how would they obtain your book?
Yes, my book is published with Balboa Press, and it is a division of Hay House. The book is available on Amazon. It is available on Balboa Press website as well. It is available on my website, thepathbydesi.com. It is also available at Indigo, Indigo Pinecrest. They have copies available. It is available on their website as well. So there are many, and Barnes and Noble.
Wonderful. And how much is your book retailing for?
It is $19.95, around $20 is the soft copy.
Do you ever show up at Pinecrest Indigo to sign copies?
Yes, I did actually. Last year in November, I had a book signing event, and there was another one actually planned for this year, and it was scheduled for April 5th, but we need to reschedule that one. So it will happen at some point once this is over.
Wonderful. Now, we had a lovely chat last night in our virtual green room, and some of the things that struck me were that you actually have a master's degree from Bulgaria and in mathematics and computer science. Is that correct?
That's true. Yes, I graduated in Bulgaria, and I was very fortunate that the university that I graduated from was recognized here in Canada. So I didn't really need to do my master's program again. They recognized all of my diplomas, everything. So I just had to pass one proficiency language test. to prove that, yes, I can teach in English. And yeah, so that was pretty much all. And I became a certified teacher, and I have been teaching in Canada since 2009. I have been teaching mathematics.
Mathematics, high school mathematics.
High school mathematics. I also taught computer science, but currently I'm teaching mathematics.
So this is interesting how you have a hardcore math and computer science background, and yet this journey of self-discovery was one of very more esoteric, shall we say, through yoga and meditation, and led to the writing of this book. Can you talk a little bit about that journey?
Yes, actually, math and computer science taught me some essential skills that were really important and helped me evolve as a soul. Math is a subject that is not easy to grasp, but it taught me to be patient with myself, very patient, because things do happen, but it takes time. Also, math taught me to not give up easily, just to persevere and to be consistent, because with math, you do need to practice regularly. It's not a subject that you can do once in a while and then expect good results. And I was pretty motivated. And the truth is that I was a very shy person, and I was not doing really well at grade 1 to 4. I was not a good student at all. And the main reason for that was not that I wasn't trying. I just didn't have any confidence, and I didn't believe in myself. And in grade 5, 6, I met with a gorgeous math teacher, and she actually believed in me, and she found a different way of evaluating me. And that actually made me believe that I can perform well in math. And since that moment, I started excelling in every single subject, just by this fact that I was able to perform well in such a difficult subject. And what happened is that I started believing in myself, and people around started believing in myself. And I was gaining more and more confidence, and I was just at the point where I realized that nothing can really stop me. So math was very, very important step in my journey. And so these are building blocks. If we want to really connect with the truth within, we need to really give ourselves some time to explore, to practice. Practice is the key. We really need to practice and to trust and to follow these laws. Like in math, there is some laws that we need to follow. There are these theorems that we don't take them for granted. Everything is proven. So that's the same with the spiritual journey. You have to really be consistent, practice, and there is truth that is waiting to be discovered. And through practice, with patience, consistency, and perseverance, one can get really, really far. And so they played an important role in my life.
So I'm Sam Dubé, and I'm here on behalf of the Toronto Book Fair by proxy on Skype with a new sci-fi fantasy author, Dee Wolfsbane of Ottawa. So it's wonderful. Markham! Excuse me. I'm sorry. Maybe it was me being a little frazzled here. Pardon me. From Markham.
Yes. So
it's an honor and a pleasure to have you here with us today. And you have a debut novel called The Ninth Scripture, is that correct?
Yeah.
The Hunt.
The series is The Ninth Scripture. The first one's called The Hunt.
Could you please tell us about your debut novel?
So the Hunt starts on a planet called QS, where there's a world at war, where two nations have been fighting for as long as anyone can remember. The males are conscripted when they come of age to fight in the war, and the women are sent to nurturers to birth more soldiers to replace those they bury. Main character is Zakir. She's an orphan who's kind of given into this fate, though she wishes she could find another way around it. And she ends up getting tested and found to have the talent, which is telekinesis, telepathy, all that cool stuff you wish you could do. and taken to a school to kind of learn and foster these abilities. But it's not quite the salvation she thought it was at first, amid sanctioned fights, discrimination, and then one desperate act kind of snowballs into another until everything kind of goes out of control, and she eventually finds a clue to her past that sends her on a journey.
Okay, what were your inspirations for your debut novel?
So I've always been a creator. I've always loved creating stories, games, kind of anything I really could at any moment. So this story in particular, The Ninth Scripture, was the one story as a child that I kept coming back to, because in my spare time I'd play imaginary games, and I'd go off and do a bunch of different things, create a bunch of different characters and storylines and worlds, and this is the one I just kept coming back to again and again and again. So I came back to it 6 different times, which created the 6 different parts that made up the 3 books that is going to be this trilogy when complete. So yeah, that's kind of where it began, and it's kind of always been my love. That one story I really wanted to keep a record of, because it was my childhood game. That was kind of my main one.
What makes your debut novel unique for its genre?
There's a few different things. I think one of the main things is how it's organized and created. It's meant to be fast-paced, and to give the reader credit. So like, I don't start with, let's say, an action scene like a lot of these ones tend to. It kind of builds into the world and creates a world that people can feel at home with and kind of escape into. And the big thing with it is it's extremely dense, because I find that I like novels that have a lot of world, a lot of characters, a lot of plot kind of built into it. And so I very much made it fast, dense, and very intricate, because there's a lot of different moving pieces that kind of come together, and you can kind of pick and see them as you go through, and hopefully piece them together. But yeah, it's really with the fully realized world, and it's a completely different world that no one has entered before.
So a question to obtain your book then, who is your publisher? And how would one go about purchasing your book?
So you can find my book on Amazon.ca. I ended up choosing to self-publish this book because I decided for this one in particular, for this story that was really close to my heart, I wanted it to be very true to itself, still developed, and because it's vastly different than what it once was, it's much better than it had been initially through all the edits and such. But I really wanted it to have a bit of an unusual structure, because a lot of traditional publishers like their formula because that's what sells and works. But I really wanted to create something new and different, and create a lot of plot twists that you wouldn't see coming and kind of build in new ways. So you can find it on Amazon. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you and I spoke in our virtual green room earlier today, and we found out that we both share a passion for tabletop gaming.
Yes.
And I'm very proud of that, by the way. So
I love it. Anytime I can play, I'll be there.
Excellent. Although I must say, you came to the Dungeons and Dragons table a little late, but that's okay. You're just a child. That's all right.
That's what happens when you are bored when it first comes out. You know?
Touche. So, can you talk to us a little bit about the process of world building? Because I get the impression that you're a world builder. You're not just a novel. You're a world builder. So please talk to us about that.
I think I built a bunch of different ones, and I think you really have to start with a premise of the people or something that you really want to explore with the world. So for my novel, it was very much about the talent and how that would craft and create different cultures and places and people. In terms of D&D and other worlds, so I play Dungeons and Dragons, which is one of the role-playing games we had discussed earlier, and it's very much about having wizards and different races and such that kind of populate that, and so it's about how to bring those out in an interesting and unique way that kind of hasn't been seen before when I build those worlds. And so it really depends on what type of world I want to build, and what I really want to get across with the world, and what I really want to explore in it.
I'm Sam Dubé for the Toronto Book Expo, here by proxy over Skype with Dr. Michael Lee, the physician turned poet from Garden City, New York. Mike, it's great to have you here today with us, even though it's St. Patrick's Day and we're in the midst of the worldwide pandemic of COVID-19. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sam. Appreciate it.
No problem. So can you tell us a little bit about your poetry?
Well, I was inspired by the works of Shel Silverstein. He's a very famous poet. Unfortunately, he died in 1999, but he's a very famous American poet. And he wrote many books geared towards children, but a lot of adults know and love his work as well. His poetry is very funny and humorous, so that's the style of poetry that I like, and I of course read it with my family.
So do you have a particular volume of poetry or multiple books? Can you tell us about your titles or title?
My first book, my debut book, is called Not Gonna Write Poems. It was published, self-published in 2019. And it's a collaboration because my daughter and she's 11 years old, and she helped me co-illustrate the book.
Wow. So either she's an excellent illustrator or you've got some developmental work to do on your illustrating.
Yes. I think she's pretty talented. So lucky for me. So yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about it's not gonna write poetry, is it called?
Not gonna write poems.
Not gonna write poems. Can you show us the book? Do you have it there with you? Can you bring it up to the screen?
Sure. I'll show that to you. It's right here.
There we go. Not gonna write poems. And that's you.
Yeah. So yeah.
I can tell by the hair.
Exactly. Yes. It's kind of a lot of these poems are kind of autobiographical, so to speak.
Okay, so what is their subject matter? Autobiographical. You're a physician. Anything else?
Well, a lot of things that I've kind of experienced in my life. Of course, some of the poems are about medical things like allergies and getting the flu, and of course there's poems about like things like ketchup sandwiches, which I used to eat when I was a child.
I did too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people can relate to that. Some strange things that you've eaten in your lifetime, and of course about bad teachers and being a brat and boogie monsters and slime. So it's geared towards kids, like I said, but anybody can relate to that, especially if you have kids.
So just to promo here, Mike, how would one obtain a copy of your book?
Well, there's a couple of ways. One is through Agora Publishing. They help me bring my book to Canadian audience. So that's through my website, mikeleepoet.ca for Canada. So they can buy it on that website. In America, in the USA, you can buy it on my website, mikeleepoet.com. So
okay.
Two ways.
What does it retail for?
Well, in the US, there's two copies. There's, of course, the like kind of Kindle version, the ebook, which is $1.99 in US dollars. For the softcover version, I think it's $12.97, and the hard copy version is like $27 and change. So okay. In Canada, obviously, it's Canadian currency, so it's a little bit different.
Need not say more.
Yeah.
All right. When did you start writing poetry, and what inspired you to start?
Well, I started writing kind of a little bit in high school, but I didn't really take it seriously until about 2017, where I really started writing consistently. I was inspired, like I said, by the poetry of Shel Silverstein. Myself and my wife, we read often his poetry and his books to my daughter before she goes to bed, because it's a good way to end the night, and we really want to encourage her to read and enjoy reading. And what better way to do that than to read funny poetry? So it gives us all a good laugh. We can see the funny pictures, and rather than watching TV, and spending all of the time on the internet, we figured it's a great way to introduce her to books and poetry, and so we all really love reading at night.
So I hear that you helped your dad with illustrating his book.
Yes,
What
I did.
what was that? What was that like?
Well, it was very fun because my dad and I got some time to share because usually he's always working. So he explained to me what he wanted for me to draw, so then I drew it, and he explained to me the ways that maybe I could improve my drawing, and yeah.
Did you explain to him the ways that he could improve his poetry?
Yeah, I told him that maybe he should shorten the poems a bit.
Oh, okay. Now, I have a question for you. Is that him on the cover of the book?
Yeah, that's a drawing of him trying to come up with some poems.
So, I'm here with author, sci-fi and fantasy author, Anthony Pavlich. I'm Sam Dubé, via Skype from Ottawa to Mississauga and back due to the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic. Anthony, you've written a wonderful book for us called The World Unraveled, Book 1 of the Scorched Earth Saga. Can you tell us about your book?
So the book is actually based in a fantasy world. Think dragons and magic and medieval times type world. Now there's a little bit difference just because I've put a little bit of modern twist to one of the kingdoms based on the ability to have running water and stuff like that. But the lead is a young man, he's a young man, 18, 19 years old. He's just discovering his magic abilities by finding out that his father is actually alive, that he thought was dead. So the World Unraveled is basically, I chose that title. It has a dual purpose because his world is becoming unraveled, but then so is everybody else's because of what they discover has been hidden for 100 years by the kingdoms and from how they became who they are now. And you probably hear my chihuahua in the background thinking he's all big and bad.
He's pent up right now because of the pandemic, eh?
Yeah, well, I've got two larger dogs that are in their room, and he always likes to bark and get them started, or either bark at whatever they're barking at, even though he doesn't know what they're barking at.
Okay. So what makes your book, The World Unraveled, unique in its genre?
Well, the lead is gay, but in the world it doesn't. It's a world where that's not a big deal. It's not anything that, unlike ours that we live in right now. A lot of times, hold on.
Dog's gonna get it. The dog's gonna get it.
I'm closing the door.
Okay.
So that he's a little less. So it's unlike the world we live in now. It's not even thought about. So I wanted to make it to where it's a norm that people, it's not. You don't know. I mean, it's not like everybody's like, oh, you grow up and it's like they're pinpointed whether they're gay or straight or bi or whatever in the book. But it's just, oh, okay, so he's not attracted to me. He's attracted to him if it's a woman, Right. So, and I just wanted it to be a non-factor because I think that's kind of the way it should be. And I didn't want the focus to be on his sexuality in the book. Like everybody coming to terms with his sexuality, I wanted the focus to be on his journey, discovering his abilities and understanding what he's doing, what he has to do for the world.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about his journey without giving away spoilers?
Without giving spoilers. Okay. Well, it starts out with him hearing a voice in his dreams. Which he doesn't know who that voice is or what the voice is. You'll discover the voice towards the end of the book. And then he finds out from a friend of his father's that his father is still alive. which his mother, you determine that his mother knows that his father's alive, but it was best to let him believe that he had died. And then a gift that his mother gives him from his father puts him on his journey towards understanding his abilities and determining whether he lives his life as he wants or whether he lives his life as he's destined.
Okay. And for our viewership, can you tell us how we would obtain a copy of your book? Do you have a website that you can give us as well?
I have a website, CHRiSTUDAS.com. Cruconia, C-R-U-O-N, Cruconia, C-R-U-C-O-N-I-A, Cruconia.com. And that is actually a website that you can purchase the book if you want to get a signed author's copy. But you can also purchase it on Amazon. It's out on Kobo. You can get a Kindle version or a printed version. And there's a few other websites. I know my niece went to buy it and she looked it up, and you could order it through Barnes & Noble. So.
And what does it retail for, Anthony?
US $9.99.
US $9.99
for the printed. Yeah.
For Canadian $250. Yeah.
Exactly. Depending on how the world goes, it might be true, but yeah, and it fluctuates. So it's like $13, $12.50 Canadian.
Can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey writing The World Unraveled?
So I've started writing many different books throughout the last couple of decades. I've always wanted to write a book. I've had a few stories that have actually come and gone through my head. I've started out a couple paragraphs in the first chapter, maybe some notes. But this one, for some reason, when it came to me, I actually know how the journey is ending. So I know what was originally going to be 3 books. I know the ending of the 3rd book. But now it's 4 books because of what I've changed in the 2nd book. So, because I'm in the middle of writing the 2nd book. So there's going to be a 3rd book in between what I had originally planned, which is going to be kind of a flashback. So it's kind of a journey of understanding who you are and who you're meant to be and incorporating with who you want to be into all that. Just a little, this doesn't have to do it doesn't involve in the story, but I've been in recovery for over 11 years. And it kind of goes along with what I thought, and I decided when I went into recovery, is that you have a lot of people who go into recovery and they make that their life. It takes over their life. They do nothing outside of being with people in recovery, which is fine and it's perfect, and a lot of people have to deal with that. But I decided that it was going to be part of me, it wasn't going to be me. And so that's kind of what the lead, Gavin, is going through. He's got to determine what's going to take him over and what's going to be part of him.
It's an honor to meet you, LP Kamosi. And as I mentioned to you before in our virtual green room, I'm sure that I've seen your name somewhere, and I just can't for the life of me recollect where. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a resident of Montreal for the past 20 approximate years, born in British Columbia, worked in Toronto, worked in BC. And when I moved to Montreal, I decided to become a children's author and entertainer. So I first published a book called, what was it called? It was called Pasta Pazoo, More Better Spaghetti.
Pasta Pazoo, More Better Spaghetti. And can you tell us about that book?
Sure. That book was written for kids who like pasta, but they only really know about spaghetti. So it took them through the world of pasta, and the illustrations were done by my daughter, and some nice, colorful illustrations.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The book was printed in India. Cost 75 cents to print it in India. Mm-hmm. Hardcover. Very popular, sold out, basically a bestseller in the province of Quebec. That was my first venture into writing. At the same time, I was starting musically, but I won't get into that too much. I'm a father of 3, grandfather of 5. I've got a daughter here in Montreal and a couple kids out in BC, a couple grandkids out there, one here. So been married for 38 years. to the same French-Canadian woman I met on a bike trip in New Brunswick.
Oh, congratulations.
So we've been across the country a couple times, and
your progeny is infiltrating the country too now.
Yeah, and they're all successful kids, which is my claim to fame when it comes to my latest book, which we talked about briefly, which is called Hey Daddy.
Right. This book is for you.
Hey Daddy, this book is for you. And it's specifically written for fathers today, based on my background as a father and a grandfather with successful kids, successful marriage, and it's a lighthearted, fun read. Self-published here in Montreal. I've got a really good printer here, and that's the sort of the style of books I'm doing now. Is they're all softcover, print on demand, because it's rather than like this book here, which was my second book. It's called Spice Capita, That Dancing Guy, and this was a hardcover, full color, 36-page book, printed in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. Where you had to print 3,000 books. So if you print that many books, you got to sell that many books eventually. I'm still selling that book, even though it was long listed for the Blue Spruce Awards in Ontario. So the reason I'm really focusing on Hey Daddy is because Hey Daddy was recently awarded a winner certificate from Canada Book Awards, which
congratulations.
Which is based in Ottawa, which makes me a winner. See?
Yep.
But more importantly, it just adds a little bit of credibility to what my goal was, which was to speak directly to fathers. It's not a book for mothers. The mothers all go, "What about me?" I said, "Well, there's enough mother books out there to sink a ship." I said, the dads today are who need the help and the encouragement to be fathers, and you and I talked about this briefly. Yeah. But from my perspective, to me, it's a crisis. It's a situation where there's a tremendous imbalance in the world right now, and unfortunately, a lot of the marriages are breaking up when their kids are very young, and or guys aren't interested in getting in relationships, and women aren't interested in getting in relationships with guys who don't want relationships. So there's a lot of disconnects out there in the world of families and parenting, and I wanted to make a statement that would be not pushy, but relied on some research that I had done and a couple things that I've been following for a number of years related to boys falling behind. Mm-hmm. Boys have been falling behind in the school system since my kids were in school, which is 25 years ago. When things started to recognize that for many years the girls were left behind or ignored, the way they treated it is they just basically cut the boys off the back of the bus, and that's resulted in a lot of problems within, as we said earlier, with relationships and how things are coming together. Unless you have a very strong family unit, and strong family units still succeed, but. So those are some of the big picture ideas, but at the end of the day, I've always been interested in kids. My job when I was a teenager was a lifeguard. I used to teach swimming to kids. Singing the music to kids is a real joy for me, to get kids involved and sing about things that affect them, whether it's Big Bad Bully Billy or whether it's I think I'm in love, but I'm not really sure, with the redheaded girl who sits right here next door. These songs all have things that are still bits of my memory going back into my life and things that I came across living in either West Coast rain conditions or Northern Ontario snow conditions. Those are what prompted the stories in the songs. So. But this being a book thing, I guess the other, so I've shown you my first book, which was Pasta Bazoo, More Better Spaghetti.
Yep.
Second book was Spice Capita, which was a story of a boy who went around the world of dance, and every place he went to reflected the artwork of that country. So, for example, this was the hula thing from Hawaii, and you can see very, very gorgeous images that my now graduated artist daughter had done. So she invested a lot of time in it. The third book, which I haven't shown you yet really in detail, is this one, which is Alpha Bones Candy.
Yes.
And this is a great book because it's an ABC book for parents. Every single page has objects hidden in the illustration that begin with, in this case, the letter E. So kids have to find the objects and then they can color it. Plus, it teaches them how to write poetry, which is a very simple form of poetry. This has been a really successful book. I just haven't had enough time to sell it, but it's definitely something that I would, given the opportunity in Ottawa, if we ever have the show up there, to present that to people. It's always been I did very well with it at Christmas this year, and I hadn't seen a lot of people for a long time. So other than that, I'm basically healthy, and I like to play tennis. I like to ski. Like to stay alive in this age of
COVID-19.
Yeah. And by the way, I also have a full-time job. I'm directly involved in some of the things that affect there. So.
Oh, can you talk about that?
Sure. I work for a company based in British Columbia called Nemex, which is a seller of medicinal mushroom extracts grown, processed, and produced in China and delivered into the United States. So most of our customers are in the U.S. And our business has been steadily increasing over the last 5 years as more and more people understand the value of these products, and aging baby boomers who want solutions to their health in an herbal way. So this is all herbal medicine. So it's my day job. I work from my home in Montreal and deal with customers mainly across the United States. And my background is in advertising and marketing, and so I've got a pretty good resume when it comes to the business side of my life. But when I retire, my only business is going to be outside and writing books, hopefully for kids and their parents and whatever else might come to mind. Who knows? I might actually write a novel someday. That's when I have the time to do it. So
right. I'm Sam Dubé. I'm here for the Ottawa Book Expo with sci-fi and fantasy author Claudiu Mergen. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I take it as a matter of pride. I want to honor your name. So, Claudiu, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
I've graduated computer. I have a computer background from Romania, and I came to Canada in 1997. I've been very active in the science fiction movement back home. I used to organize events, attend all kinds of sci-fi conventions in the US or Europe. I really like the genre, and I've been writing since I was 11 years old. So it was kind of ingrained in what I do and who I am. Unfortunately, soon after I arrived to Canada, I got involved into the day-to-day grind, and I kind of lost touch with my inner soul and with what I love to do, to write. And I also attached that event with the fact that at one point I attended a book signing with Terry Goodkind, the famous fantasy writer. And I walked up to him and I asked him to, sign my book. And also the next question was, when did you start writing? And he said at 45 years old. And my first thought was, oh my God, so old. I was 27 at that time. And somehow I think God punished me for that ungodly thought, because for the next 19 years I wasn't able to write anything related to sci-fi or speculative fiction or fantasy. So when I was about to turn 45, that creative juice came back to me, and I started with an old idea, or an idea I had back when I was 17 years old, and that developed into the decadence of our souls. So I don't know if it was a coincidence or, God said, it's enough for you. You've been dried for 19 years. Now it's time for you to blossom and get back,
That's right. Take your true calling, right?
Yes.
So I had heard in another interview that actually you had used the title Decadence of Our Souls in a previous work when you were a teenager, and it was your mother that found the notebook and asked you, should I throw this out? And you're like, no, keep it. And you end up using that the title of your first book in 2017 called The Decadence of Our Souls. Can you tell us a little bit about what may have inspired you to put pen to paper or fingertips to keyboard at age 45? Can you delve into that a little bit? What was your inspiration? What was your motivation?
I received a photograph in the mail by Gregory Colbert. I don't have it close to me here. It's a kneeled child reading from a book in front of a kneeled elephant. So I had that photograph in my cubicle at work, and I kept watching it and looking at it and trying to understand what's the connection between these two individuals. The sensitive animal and entity, which is the elephant, and very empathic, and the child. So I started writing down ideas, developing a plot. So after several weeks of writing down this type of potential ideas, developing the plot, I said, you know what, this can become a book. And I used that idea from when I was 17 years old of what will happen if all the souls will be called upon by God. Are they all have to be pure souls, or God will be so good that he doesn't matter? He won't make a distinction based on our facts here on Earth or on a planet, which I imagined. So I combined these two, and in the end, Decadence of Our Souls came to fruition.
Yes, we can kind of focus on that. Okay, it's a little fuzzy, but great. I'm glad you showed the book. Now, I've heard of this idea being used in sci-fi before, I think notably in some Christian film. I think it was called Rapture, or something about souls being called, and then the remaining souls had to fight it out on Earth. This was done more than once, but what makes the decadence of our souls different in terms of the underlying spirituality? Because I know you consider yourself to be quite spiritual, and I want to understand, and our fans want to understand, what is the underpinnings of your plot of your book?
I'm using different type of symbolism. So I'm using the tree of life, but this time it's a double tree of life. One which will birth boys, and one which will give birth to girls. And they come forward into a community where children and elephants communicate telepathically. In this case, the elephants are the teachers, not other humans. So I'm trying to maintain this and put forward this connection between us and nature, that the fact we are one, and we have to understand our place in this ecosystem called Gaia. So they're supposed to be pure, they're supposed to come back over and over again to reach their goals. They are born into castes, builders, writers, commoners, and architects, and writers, and they have to write a certain number of novels or poems during their lifetime, which is quite short. And so they age very fast. And there are also special souls who found enlightenment. Like in our days, people can find enlightenment, can enrich their souls. They have a special relationship with the divinity. So these special souls come back through these trees or through different special places on the planet to help their brothers and sisters to enrich their souls, enlighten themselves, and stay with either the divinity or also come back as they came back as well. And on the other side, you have the decadent world who only think at the instant gratification. They are very big again on drugs, booze, any type of pleasure. And when one of these special souls is being kidnapped, he's trying to change them, to tell them that there's a special entity, a certain entity out there who can listen to them, who can help them develop as human beings. But because these guys are technologically advanced, they think that if they develop a technology and they have a switch on and off on their brain, they can find this state of bliss and they can enhance the pleasure. But that's not the case. You have to really feel, you really have to go inside, you have to understand the power of the words you speak, the vibration of your thoughts. So this child is trying to teach them all these things, but they don't learn. In the process, he's being changed as well. He's being hurt. And he is not successful of what his initial goal was.
He's being changed and hurt by the decadence?
By the people, by the decadent people, yes.
Right.
Who don't understand him, and they just, in the end, use him as a exchange currency for their pleasures. So the book ends with the fact that most of the people in this decadent world will be taken up in order for the world to be cleansed. Some of the children, normal children, remain behind, and the elephants might come and take over and start teaching them the same way they taught the people, the children in the village. So that's why the fable is there, the symbolism is there, and it was used before, but I use different tools and different approach for the same message. We really have to improve ourselves as human beings, and it is my conviction that if we don't raise our consciousness to the next level, have a shift in our consciousness, what happens these days with the COVID-19 will happen over and over again, because we don't learn.
No, and in fact, we're doing a Skype interview because of the worldwide pandemic of COVID-19 at this time, isn't that right?
Toronto Book Expo and Ottawa Book Expo incorporates the following 20 critical steps options designed to support your success as an author. 1. Manuscript evaluation. 2. Front book cover design, pre-marketing. 3. ISBN registration. 4. Books in print registration, pre-marketing. 5. Book website or author blog, pre-marketing. 6. Copy editing or substantive editing or ghostwriting. 7. Professional typesetting, designing internal pages, paperback. 8. Ebook formatting, Kindle, Kobo, Nuke and Smashwords. 9. Completing book cover design, spine and back. 10. Author interview with videographer, preview of upcoming book. 11. Specimen copy of book, reviewing typesetting. 12. Printing and or ebook publishing. 13. Book distribution considerations. 14. Getting books available on online booksellers or brick and mortar stores. 15. News release writing and publishing onto various news sites. 16. Writing and publishing high quality and Google trending newspaper style articles. 17. Marketing and selling your books through our book expos like Ottawa Book Expo. Includes interview with a journalist for our YouTube channel. 18. Authors readings. 19. Promotional options like our Book Expo America shared authors booth. 20. Interviews with blogger and or television or radio news reporters. These services are sponsored by agorapublishing.com, which is a not-for-profit organization. Contact us for more information.
The Great Canadian Barbecue in Ottawa Book Expo 2020 celebrates great food and literary culture on Sunday, June 7th at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa, Canada. Authors, restaurants, and entrepreneurs can still apply to become vendors. Info is available on ottawabookexpo.ca and thebbq.ca.